I figured it's fine. Yeah.
Hi.
Okay.
I'm Terrence Arjun. I'm the manager of 192 Books, and thank you all for coming, those of you in person and those of you streaming in on YouTube. All of our readings at 192 are live streamed and archived on our YouTube page, 192 Books. We are here for the re-release of Asia and Haiti by Litmus Press, the 30th anniversary edition. And Will Alexander will be talking with Tilghman Alexander Goldsborough. I'm going to read both their bios, and then Will read, and Tilghman, and then they'll talk. Will Alexander is a poet, novelist, playwright, philosopher, visual artist, and musician. He has published over 24 books in a variety of genres and has earned many honors and awards, including a Whiting Fellowship for Poetry, a California Arts Council Fellowship, the Penn Oakland Josephine Miles Award, a Before Columbus Foundation American Book Award, and the 2016 Jackson Poetry Prize. Among his recent publications are a 30th anniversary edition of Asia and Haiti, The Coming Mental Range, Refractive Africa, which was a finalist for the 2022 Pulitzer Prize in Poetry, Divine Blue Light, and Charismatic Spirals. Tilghman Alexander Goldsborough is a substitute teacher in Brooklyn, New York. He is the author of The Western by 1080 Press and Object 7, A Spirit Loosely Bundled in a Frame by Future Poem. We have all of their books available at the store, and they'll stick around signed copies after. And now I will pass the mic over to Tilghman, but Will read.
Thank you for attending this reading. Glad to see all of you. And this is a spontaneous delight for me and a blessing to all my editors, and particularly my two most enduring editors, James Sherry and Tracy Grinnell. Okay, so we want to extend our vibrations to the audience in such a way that we can continue to integrate what I call sporulation of the ethers that stream in from the cosmos. And hopefully we'll stream back at them at some point. So I want to read from Asia and Haiti. This is a volume I've written over 30 years ago, and I seldom read from. In fact, this may be an inaugural reading. I just put books away and I don't forget about them, but I let them sit, and I keep my mind open so new things can appear. So it's like Andre Breton says he doesn't like to memorize poetry, so new poetry can come in. So here we are, and I'll go back to my 30th anniversary here of this book. And here's one quote. Don't want to bore you with quotes. I wrote one. Jeffrey Hopkins wrote one. It's called Meditation on Emptiness, great volume on Buddhism. And here's a quote from Antonin Artaud. You who were not imprisoned in the flesh, who know at what point in carnal trajectory, its senseless comings and goings, the soul finds the absolute verb, the new word, the inner land. This concerns the communist invasion of Tibet, 1950. These are the monks speaking. Let us recall the illusion, the thousands murdered, the text exploded, the sun become a mechanical sub rosa. We, the once green wings of a magical Tibet, accused by the Maoist, by the exterior flames of ideology and assault. The insults, the curses, the fierce and poisonous scaling oars endured, buried by general anthrax and demon. Yet we've emerged with our murmurs, with our saffron bleeding above the 12 elusive zones of the zodiac, with our bleak and tested fatigue, able to concentrate our blindings, our spectral condensation to roaming steam, to tragic pints of venom. Our fate ensnared by Chinese materia, by dyslexic simian diversion, by we of seeming maximal debility, the spiders swarming our mantras throughout this canticle of purges. We exiled in this green electrical penumbra, looking down on this heinous monochromatic Pentecost, on scale Marxist grafting by furnace and foreclosure, pulled from our shrouded mantric chambers to do wonders for the scions, for the misanthropic wailing dolls, stunted in their core by brutality. These drab and scaly Marxists, plotted by erasure, by procedure, by burden, by churlish transposition of the conflagrant spirit sun. This has been our lot in exile, inside this fluorescent penumbra, spinning our prayer wheels above our leaking opium explodants, above our fulgurant supernal yeast. We spawned from the ethers by coupled monkey and demon, by incandescent boiling rods. So be it in this primeval penumbra, in this heightened vertigrous scarlet, in this incisive analogical omniscience. It is we who break the bells wide open. It is we who signal the dead in their post-mortem frenzy with a turbulent flame of yaks, with dense and vital stuffing lynxes, with mixture by foreboding and conundrum. For us, this is path by treacherous lightning analogy, by magic and blowing grass at the snow line. For us, the true interior Tibet, dark and irreversible surcease, tearing down the dialectical habitat with structures from our darkened bond endowment, kaleidoscopic with vermin, with spells, with fabulous eradications and wildness. So we are ensconced, concentrated with the non-rectangular, with savagery. We aspire to nirvana, to be left unsullied like vertical plumes from a yurt on fire with potassics. We do not live in flotational scarlet to dwell on Mesozoic geology or speak of arguments and counter-arguments concerning instinctive erasure and existence. So when we speak of the west-east direction of the Pamirs or the Taurus Mountains along the southern edge of Turkey or the ashen edge of the Iranian plateau, it is the ligature of our throats, of our prognostic blazings. We whose empiric is vapor, whose high cylindrical interior burns throughout rudimentary balance, throughout a transparent hemlock. We in this floating Bassian domain, squalid, hierarchical frenzy. Recall the leprous empirics of the Chinese invasion. Disheartened by brigades, the Dalai Lama recalls 3 men in gray suits who looked extremely drab. Communists, with their bland, dehumanized debasement, with their fired material anger, with their vicious legerdemains against Lhasa, against our wild and alien Sino burning, against our scrolls, against the singing of our daughters in judgment. Therefore, our flaming, our rooted chiefs, our Nargajunian strangeness, then the revolts, then the musics from our dungeons of blood. The Chinese demanded that we supply their troops with food. According to the minister, Sepun Shikabpa pushed our people to the verge of famine. So we spat at them, sang rude songs about them, hit them with knots in our prayer shawls. We from the Sarah enclave, we, the first cycle of resistance, joined the warlike combats so that bridges were destroyed, columns attacked. Our actions in keeping with Nagarjuna's relativity with his asp-like sniping at change of total domination. For we are people who cease to flinch at panic, we who feast on samba, on tea with rancid butter, our imported barley compressed into bricks, our exports of gold and dust and borax, for we breathe the fumes of heaven from our high plateau of camels, from our astral antelopes and leopards. We soar with convergent dilation, with the wizardry of staminas, of sealing, we who boil from Strongstun Gompa, first Tibetan king, who brought the first instinctive alonyms. Then we rose to the high status of the Mongols, we who flourished at the court of Karakoram, then the forms of Sechun Kampa, then the Dalai Lama conferred by Altun Khan. Therefore, whatever we owed to China, we owed to the vanished dynasty, our ancient Chinese relations, a furnace of old diaries, now the communist forgers, liars, the 17-point agreement, falsified as coding, not the true insistence of our destiny, nor the karma of our fiery backdrop. We suffered retreats by negative copulation, by insincerity, road building labor, murderous dictation by Marx. We remembered our God King Lama clenching a rifle, dressed as a Kamba guerrilla, escaping to the rebel interior of Loka with Rinchen Dolma Taring, who prayed to her karma deity for the bodies left behind. The furious hand-to-hand fighting, the thousands left bleeding against fulminant walls and markings. We, with the power of Padma Sambhava, who subjected local demons to the power of the faithful, his spirit revived above ignited peaks of dishonor, above magical realms of transparency. This is our grandeur, the true enkindled species of our name. I'll leave it at that because it's my first time looking at this text in many, many years. But the text goes on for many, many pages. So, I'll read one from this is a highly, it's mesmerizing book to me because this is my only copy. This is called Above the Human Nerve Domain. I read a couple at Bard, and I'll read the first one I read at Bard, this last reading. It's called The Impalpable Brush Fire Singer. No, he is not an earned singer, nor does he carry on rapport with negative forces within extinction. He is the brush fire singer who projects from his heart the sound of insidious subduction, of blank anomaly as posture, of opaque density as ash. He, distanced from prone ventriloquial stammer, from flesh and habit and drought. The performer, part poltergeist and Orisha, part broken in cellular dove, part glance from floating Mongol bastions, where the spires of butane, where their photographic fractals are implanted with hypnosis. Because he allegedly embodies a green necrotic umber, more like a vertical flash or a farad, posing like a tempest in a human chromium palace. Therefore his sound, a dazed simum in a gauntlet, a blizzard burned at the touch of old maelstroms. Because he gives off the odor of storms, this universal Orisha, like a sun that falls from a compost of dimness, out of deep productive hydrogen sums, out of lightless fissures which boil outside the planet. Yes, he sings at a certain pitch which is evolved beyond the potter's field, beyond a tragic hummingbird's cirrhosis, surmounting primeval flaw, surmounting the fire which forms in irreplaceable disjunction. Under certain formations of the zodiac, he is listless. He intones without impact his sonatic revelations, no longer of the law, of measured, palpable destinations, because he sings in such a pitch that even the rishis can't ignore. As though the hollow power which re-arises from nothingness perpetually condenses like a vacuum which splits within the spinning arc of an intangible solar candle. Such power can never be confusedly retraced because it adumbrates and blazes like a glossary of suns, so that each viral drill, each forge casts a feeling which insaturates a pressure, bringing to distance the hidden and eluded polarity. Like a subjective skills, corroded and advanced, he sings beyond the grip of a paralytic nexus, where blood shifts, beyond the magnet of volume, where the nerves no longer resonate, inside an octagonal maze, stung at its source by piranhas. Try to be as swift. I can't tell you. Let me tell you. I'll tell you. What is it? The impalpable brush fire singer. Okay. These are quick. Here's a quick one-liner from Charismatic Spirals, and I love these one-line poems. Shorter pieces, you know. They go up to what's the combustion cycles, over 600 pages. But these one-liners, I put as much energy in those as I put into a big. It's quality. It's not large a volume of work. So this is thanks to the James Webb Telescope. This is the planet. It's a Korean term, Bakudo. but it's a planet that they named, and I'll just read the poem. Improbable plane that sweeps inside its sun as survival. The cosmos is amazing. We're part of it, but sometimes we don't act like it. So I don't want to keep too much time going on, but here's two very volumes keep coming out of me all the time. Stuff is always spurious, 3:30 in the morning, 12 in the afternoon, anytime. So one lives in a river of poetry, and Nathaniel Mackey, we talked a little bit about that. We're always inside of a 24-hour-a-day cycle. It's what Bob Kaufman, by the way, mentioned. You know, you just live in this entranced kingdom of life, of lightning and language, lightning as language. So this is part of my Arctic travel by shamanic hearing. Eliade in shamanism talked about this shaman, I think it's an Andean shaman called Taveo, and he can hear at great distances. So by my imagination and my hearing, I'm traveling to different parts of the universe all the time. And I'll read this and read a little bit and we'll go forward. This is called Visitation at Centigrade. Light that dispels its articulated essence as mesmerism, that articulates its own essence as mesmerism, being nuanced by filigree, that pre-ignites its own chirality. Here there is prefigurement by chimerical in essence, by lack that can be described by defensive maneuver. Then again being mesmerism by ion, by articulated nervous calamity by dawn, by 20 suns as exploding blue light, subsumed as articulated nerve ends, not as brazen suggestion, but as higher inevitability. Not, for instance, as cognitive codex, but atoms on fire merging with darkness as unified transmission, as instantaneous light that explodes by generating trapezoidal fertility as articulated nomos. This being solar form as unknown language sweeping away horizons that both explodes and etches its own formation, being diaphanous centigrade as cartographical charisma that approaches its own summation, not as etching or fossil that explodes simultaneous with its own horizon. And this will be the last part of my part here in this ongoing spectrum of, it's just the last poem I wrote. I was recently at Duke, and I just wrote this down it was after this diabolical situation in the political arena. And I was treasuring my own isolation. And this is coming out from Sonare in Mexico City. It's modeled on, Margaret Randall's O Corno Emplumado. It's going to be published by Lucia Hinojosa Galaxio. She's in Mexico City. And this is just part of this. I didn't know it was this long. I'm just going to read the first page only. Never immersed in static predation, but by philosophical tenor, never consumed by rivalrous haunting, but by cellular bell letters, prolifically singed by osmosis from the beyond, never by phantom highly drift, by cinders from mesmerized calendrics, prone as it is to powerless philosophical heresy. Perhaps the state can be falsely claimed as strategized liminality. Therefore, one can never claim one's ultimate option, not as a brusque heraldic stroll, as truncated amethyst, summoned by inviolable misdirection, by darkened gradient, being tendrils that flare, then protractedly surceases, not by auto self-monitoring, but as circular status by auto self-monitoring, monitoring, but as circular status that seemingly blazes by rhyme, by meteoritic range is inhibition that never seems to shift on Saturn, but seized by protracted powers of methane, alive as magnetic methane, by dazzling griffin, by human form as painstaking essence. Not by topical barometer nor chronological haven, science having become a meteoritic, incendiary spectacle, a living climate that magnetically combusts not as hackneyed probing, but as living microscopic tenor, always projecting essence as form, not as topical essence by chronology, not as rigidified emblematic, but by probing, but by poetic probing, not by a relic of mirrors, not confined by a strange meteoritic, but precise, invigorated stunning, not flummoxed by inadvertent vacancy, not as ceremonial dazzling or precarious plummeting, but by power that augments its own presence. I'll leave it at this, and we'll go forward.
Hello. There we go. Yeah, this is crazy. It's like a dream type scenario. I shouldn't say like is. It's not really a simile. Thank you. That was crazy. All right. Yeah. Let me. I'm gonna hop into it. Yeah, we're gonna be talking for a minute. Oh wait, no, that's not the one. Wait, I lost my poem. Here it goes. I'm reading this one because my mom read my book, and this is one of the ones she mentioned. Wrapped in brown paper, wrapped in brown paper. Push it down, but it keeps on surfacing. A drowned body that grew gills instead of giving up, dying, and keeps on trying to talk to you about the wonders of evolution while you throw up from the smell, taste, texture. I don't mean to be rude, but it's always something about the texture. A bloody stool, salted slug loogie in the back of your throat that lets you know hell is real, and it is here, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, the cubed sphere, estilo sonorense, with chipotle, queso amarillo, and lugar de. A feeling manifests, wrapped in brown paper, that I can grasp using the opposable thumbs attached to the sides of this Grecian-type urn, shuttling you yourself between the here and not here, around which the universe turns with a slight wobble. A short one. To be honest, for once, I'm still kind of fucked up from when the ground moved. It's hard to deal directly and forcefully with pressing issues when there's so much going on without and within, and I don't know where to begin. Like, I don't know if I ever told you that my greatest fear is falling from a great height. I don't think it's regarding hitting the ground, though. It's maybe more fear of the panic of the absolute lack of control as the foregone conclusion rushes up to meet you. This is a cool prop I'm doing right now, reaching back and grabbing my books off the shelf. Just so you know, I'm doing this on purpose. Not entirely, but I thought about it as I was walking up, like, oh, fuck, I don't have my books. I'm going to start from the middle of one of these. Somewhere within Western section opening credits. As a gang of black cherubs dressed in leather hold the bucket of bright green slime, wetting hair, dripping down face, flashing TV grin, looking up at night sky grid, waiting on wings to fly on home. As dewdrops cloud sense in sky during slow counts to nothing, numbering shallow breaths from mottled park bench, beneath a dozen geese squawking and shitting, foul smells flapping, feathered into nostrils, sweaty with exertion, gasping musk of rotting plastic broccoli, green juice, and red onion, fuel to keep the body going, even as skin feels ill-fitting, stuffed at random with organs. Wet tech immemorial. Found a shard of glass in my omelet, looked at it, swallowed it whole, got me stuck in the staticky present, got me searching for salvation, a religious type ecstasy, French fromage, melted into self, for brief reduction of pre-millennial tensions, on the pot in the weeds, sensing sacred intuitive knowledge, the fate of Eden after Adam. Western man swayed by slick propaganda, brain lights flickering phosphorophilaments, the botulism colony atop the microwave, toxins escaping into air with a hiss. Standing outside, can't see the sky. 4. Cold blue Confederate Mr. Freeze rides on the back of old Gus, high and mighty, performing a Lipizzaner prance, holding dangling lash, leaping to lick exposed backs, cutting through skin to bone, an indiscriminate progressive, beaten all without prejudice. Every fortune seeker across the grayscale, no longer just the maroons patiently waiting, lost and looking for the eye of Aten, long-lashed and winking in the trees. Ain't been seen since crews of Bab-2s swarmed over the horizon to beat black Africans till they became American, scenes now recounted as distant childish villainy, as necessary labor pains following 80-day gestation, brewing below decks and rat filth human stink. Following 80-day gestation, brewing below decks and rat filth human stink. Misery, bathed in bloody flux, always damp, never warm, chained over big river, heading to death, piloted by pink putti, wearing only religious red headdress, proclaiming freedom and open expression, alchemists asking letter gold, demanding dominion over here and after. The moon burns red. Dead wood sprouts fresh blue-green leaves. I'm thirsty. I need to pee. In the western lands, red is the morning, blue is the night. Pink be the demons, roasting man alive from inside out. I'll stop there. I'll read the first page of this. And then some new. Western sketches Cinco a Go-Go. Hot dust from Rodney's, cooled by fresh plums. Picked from paint bucket, parked by bloody blue. Gray tile, wood panel, big mirror floor. Clay-colored village 1,000 miles from Addis. Breathtaking beauty cracked with sadness. These valleys are craters packed with absence. A haunting cold breath is gasping down neck. Frightening animistic connection, negating enlightened logic. Them cracks spewing Renee's reasons. Fetid mists of waste. Delicate drops marking with musk. Me in my very own religious red headdress. Hard and plastic, stuck in iron bars of green chicken garden. Chasing the crickets who sing in my dreams. Green pants, red vests, white gloves, blue hats. A minced oath, packaged in pouches, pointy straw punctured, formerly flat, now crunched with crinkles, crossed purple muscle, throbbing and squirting, covered in end of trepin drip, cord cranium swung in a circle, third-grade tornado trapped in a bottle, blue water, spitting, idle green-gray chunks. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can shove in some new stuff. Yeah, I'll do like a page and a page and a page. California 2. This is slightly awkward. Am I too close on it now? No. All right. California 2. Reverse concrete clock numerals etched Roman. Blue, green, kinda yellow brown, slides through orange. Fronds, fruits, annihilate blasting. Sun Argod Jr., obscuring a revelation. Tumble Rock fuchsia cascade. Skyward, old head concert advert bubbles over blue Gabo memo. Black Meeb, indigo folk, roho no o zoner, bushel of sugar swords buried in rock, in dash hail, now gone, not forgot. Am seated upon candy apple concrete atop Montecito, facing sunset outlines of mountains, backed by Turtle Pond, past a murder on hot coal bins before ascent. Gave something like directions to a stranger in lingering interaction am sure I miss beats of, busy staring at confusing German carpenter-like kit with wide vests. Sure I miss beats of, busy staring at confusing German carpenter-like kit with vest, wide trouser, obligate knife, tools hung off utility, ears on rustle sounds wiggling tall grass, started off scared of kite. I always want to say coyotes, but it's not how the... It's funnier to me. One day I'll write a line where it's actually... Anyway, fuck it. Started off scared of coyotes, then saw a couple rabbits. Still movement out of sight, within reach requires attention usual. Ending abbreviated Holly Forest walk over here, disjointed, following keys remembered. In pocket, front of Ralph's, feeling fire hole. Not hearing instructions uttered after secret purchase, pre-Martin meat. Later. Follow sunset west. See longtime friends connect happily after long absence during reclamation of plastic. One friend, a seller by Park Gate. One friend, a seller by Park Gate, suburban. Subir. Anyway, autocorrect. One friend, a seller by Park Gate, Subir, for night come, the wink, orangey, pinky peach, long stretch, no sights but all, 606 Parkman to political encampment under bridge, nasal taste of people, slow turn west on the shady side, ceaseless 20th sea looming, stuck, frozen, implanted, scarring landscape into beauty. Death drink sup by osmosis, excrete, waking pizza pastry, under organ pixelated, blurred for too much nudity, exposed, then rendered edgeless, feature-free masterpiece. Sudden rightward turn, shocking, seeming viscerally fully hedonistic, parched petals stretch, giraffe's nostalgia climbs elevated grade, continuous green peaking, giraffe's nostalgia climbs elevated grade, continuous. Green peaking hut habitations and taupe exterior, angular and glaring, mildly inebriated off hubris and substance. Blood curdles scream a child's play swing. Still, these are funny swinging lines. Anyway, blood curdles scream a child's play. Swing still carries momentum. Mom wears leather while dad is the government. Papa Papillon, teal A-frame and the happy. Three sister, greet, leant, shaggy at end of drive, up tilt. Ghost boy David Freddy traces path down long edge, upper folds to lower. Silver horn, alien eye, Oakley stems over crown, a red cap. Tie-dye tee, cross eye, smiley hurling. Jort's house constructed, big red boots on board. Take too long. That was the first page. I was going to keep going, but I want to do shove as many as I can while I got you here. Okay. Okay, last one, I think. Nearly dark-skinned man attempts to hide his crying from lolling sheep's head. Sunken to button neck waves lapping. A little bit colder than expected. Luckily, red square gorilla hugs waist. Use torso to point overhead. Identifying north in a hurry. You follow. Albinous split stream to concrete banquette where big bucket dump plastics on the sand. Scimitar curved strand scythical wheat cutter. Under coif black cutout depicting slobbered fixations under 2100 indigo Sirius shine by brown eye. As charcoal fire eternal burns beyond, purslip buddy boy spreading ooh over. Oh, am I reading an old fucking version of this? Whatever, fuck it. It's fine. It's fine. This is so upsetting. Yeah, whatever. It still sounds. It sounded fine until I noticed it, so it still sounds good. Purslip Buddy Boy spreading ooh over Curtin Road community, glowing orange through links. You are skittish regarding approaching relinquishment, veiny bumper turning over empty, palming 5 flaming petals, shrinking, blackening, time refining and expansion. These probably not even hands yet. Proto-thumb only 2 knuckle, 4 spirit trapped, aping color coded, floating just out of sight, howling and glowing. Hold on. This is quite upsetting. Wait, hold on. Oh. Yeah, I was reading the wrong version. Anyway, we'll hop right back into it. Actually, you know what? This is funny enough to me. I'm going to restart. We're not going to read the whole poem. We're just going to reread what I read and then call it a day. crazy. That's the first time I've ever done that. Formerly dark-skinned man attempts to hide his crying with lolling sheep's head. Ramrod off Space Mountain Eternal Majesty makes Heavenland Ocean Touch essentially erotic. Very different, right? And now hear you, all in God face with nothing to say. Tight-lipped buddy boy, bowed in position of supplication, sunk into button neck, waves lapping, a little bit colder than expected. Lucky, red square gorilla hugs May waist. Pull out torso to point overhead. Identify North in a hurry, following Albinus split stream to concrete banquette, bucketing plastics at end of grim reap. Under, coiffed black cutout depicting slobbered fixations under 2100 indigo, serious shine by brown eye. Charcoal fire eternal burns beyond glowing orange through links. You will soon be reminded you are brief notable difference in pigmentation from rest relax not so serious sun fun frolic soon smooth by change in activities takes maybe 2-3 weeks plus replacement landscape. Infinite wet one piece cold deep teeming low lit single soft white spot holding no boat bridge linkage. Open possibility, unseen, frigid sinking through needles, jabbing, lungs, thirsty, gulping. Bright greens flash Morse across bay, observing Lil Lord Leaker, drip, dusty, crumbling, tween, fingers cupped and splayed. Becomes experiential reminder to call mother, when what you thought was North Star really pointed to node round which our light lingers, cradle where you sup from. Mansa Muster's paraphrase outside Marco's, an accent semi-Gambian, speaking to molten core currently cooling. Number face interaction with own spinning, spreading slowly swaps rotation, rights wobble, briefly sinks orbit before fall continues through vacant. Burnt, frozen, last gasping, tears of frustrate confusion. Trying to maintain silent stonies seated above screaming gravel ferals, end a chance encounter on long way down. Vines behind as seen in pastel capture, you am one pulsing organ, mind abandoned, sound of crickets and blinking, jet beige endless, echoing. Croon searching, chest resonant, unavoidable seeming. Shift around, look in eye a new stranger, well known. Void unfurling, massive beyond all belief comprehension. Fuck it, I'm gonna go ahead and finish this. This is almost done. Engage in stand stare activity ancient, cooling limbs, watching globular bonfire, wood panel television, personalities emerging, ovum liquor splitting to fraternals Johnson, ridged, bobbing, spilling clam spectrate supper, gnarled shadow scene stark, bouffant greasy jet black leafy, wig splitting overwhelm dropped from sky, slow blinking top white reflector clapping at animals, wild, slow to scatter, rather slinking, rose-colored blue folding. Known solitary figure stood distance in day-bright dark, a second close reading analysis of some may be expected. Prophecy is memory, drip down rib melted by knowledge previous. Your experience lives in liquid body reflection. You need both God and a God. Box mystery plastic Arcadia under Dogon pile glimmer leading to other kind of freedom enduring. At times tapping forearm to loosen grip blinding with bubbling static blooming produced suddenly in tight touch dominating sub-loving. Kneel. Present occipital. Another slow leak wets edge and ongoing agitation heard left hand. Blue sign shines in right ear. Red hots regurgitate scent crunchy brittles somehow chipped. Familiar rhythm sweetly tongue sinus. Head turn. You. Thank you. Into it?
Okay.
Cool.
Well, I want to congratulate you on the evolution of your oral facility. You know, most poets don't have oral facility. They have an optical facility, but they don't have an oral facility. That's where the poetry comes from.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
And so
Thank you.
that's the distinction between the hard bitten professor in the morgue of academia and yourself.
Wow, thank you.
But-
Thank you. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, wow. I'll let that wash over me real quick. Yeah, I think that was something that I was. Well, as you're reading, I think hearing you read the inscription before Asia, and then hearing you read, I was thinking about this oral thing as well. Well, actually, I'm saying all this like I have something very important to say, but I wanted to talk to you about music, I guess. Like in one of the books, I think it's Compression and Purity, you're talking about a couple of different artists. I think it was like Coltrane, and I guess I wanted to hear about like your oral. Like where does that come from?
It started with, poetry just evolves for me musically from birth, but I never got into it as a written form for a while in life, and I was brought into balance via Eric Dolphy, John Coltrane's work, and others that are incredible, in that sphere. Go from Don Cherry, Cecil Taylor, Steve Lacy, you name it, Sonny Murray. But it's seeding form. Your poet has to go through seeding, and it's like a field has to be worked with before you can plant the seed.
True.
So in other words, you just can't jump in and write some lines down. They say, "Oh, poetry seems easy," but it's really not. You got to take a lifetime to work on a line, really. So and I thought I was not going to be able to progress because I was not like Rimbaud or my late great friend Philip Lamantia, where you writing these masterpieces at 13, or is Rimbaud retired at 19? So I thought I was a very old person when I was 21 when this started coming out. But one teacher told me, and I can remember I hope he's still with us, Joshua Kessler, some years ago. He says, he just sat back and quietly says, "You are somebody I would not discourage from writing." He said, "You're going to probably have your run in the next 5 years," and it happened.
Oh, wow.
So I persevered through postal services and cleaning, washing windows, you name it. But the poet has to do all kinds of things. It looks like he's an itinerant, but you have to stick with yourself, with your ear, and read books, of course, and grab experiences along the way, negative or positive. It's what you can pull out of them and turn it into juice. It's like those small lizards that survive in the Namib. And they pop up, and they keep moving. But so I'm a poet like a desert in the Namib. Here I am, we're talking.
What with the people who you named, because it's interesting to hear you say you started when you were like 21, because I guess I as well didn't really start seriously writing poems, so I was like just got out of college, so I was like 22. Okay, how do I connect this back to the music question? Because my thought was, when were you listening to what in terms of your... Because like before I started writing poems when I was in high school and stuff, I listened to, I don't know, all kinds of shit. Like my favorite band, I don't know if you've ever heard of the band Fugazi. Was my favorite band. I listened to Sonic Youth. I really love them. And like, I don't know, it was like the mid 2000s, so it was a lot of like weird, dumb indie rock type stuff. But then like as I got older, the things now, like, I don't know, I had early like young person music experiences, and then like as a teenager, but then the music kept coming back. So there's like jazz, I don't know, like R&B now is doing a lot for me. But then like house music and all of this and that. But that was like later. Were you listening to all this kind of stuff when you were young? Is this deep within you, or is this like coming across time?
Before I even wrote a line, I knew about. I'm still listening to McCoy trying to play Ole. absorbs me. And I had the fortune of talking this long conversation with the late Art Davis on the telephone. And I was asking him, did Eric Dolphy and Booker Little and him and Coltrane and any of them play together? And he said, never, never. They all just came together via musicality on that great Africa record, on Impulse, Africa Brass. Africa Brass. So that's how that's all in me, when I write. And it's like that's coming out of me all the time. I was never a conveyor of, they thought I was weird because I wasn't listening to popular music. Never listened to popular music. I was somewhat familiar, I was familiar with Varese, Schoenberg, things like that. And it was Varese, Edgar Varese, the experimental composer from, where's it, France? 60s. It's perennial music, In other words, that's what I was interested in, is the perennial that I garnered from my experiences. What was usable, not as a phase, but as a soaking in. So the crops will grow in the future time. And sometimes I was doing this via a form of blindness, but I was still letting some of that seep through the psychic cracks in my system. So here I am talking to you.
That's crazy. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep throwing thoughts at you, see where it goes. I have several questions in this vein because I'm very, I don't know. It felt like, how do I describe it when I first came across one of your books? It was so I'd heard your name through Carlos Laura, and then what happened? And then my next door neighbor sells books on eBay, and all of his overstock goes into there's this big box in front of his house, and so there was a proof version. This proof version of Refractive Africa was in the box, and then I saw it, and then I recognized the name from Carlos, and then I picked it up and I started reading it. I was like, oh, this is crazy, and then I looked you up and I was like, oh, this is even crazier. This is a black dude. Anyway, I'm trying to get to a point. It was seeing finding not a portrait of yourself, but maybe a portrait of a doppelganger in a desert or something. Have you had this moment with anybody else? There we go. I'll wrap that up.
Yeah. I never wrote within a box of who I was supposed to be, who I thought I was shaped to be, as one of my poems says. I was outside of all logistical conundrums that they create for poetry. It's they isolate you, and they give you a codification as to what's good and what's not good and what bears within the what I call the applause syndicate. But that wasn't going to work for me coming out from where I came from. I'll say 100 and where was I living at? 113th and Avalon, South Central. And I grew out of that combination where I had to just step over all the situations that I had to go through, the misunderstandings. I was going through all of that in isolation. So this is one of the formations of myself. I can write, lingually by myself without audiences, and I'll work just as hard when there's nobody there, obviously, and I work all the time, in front of a mirror, 2:30 in the afternoon, and I have phrases going through my head, 3:30 in the night time. It's it's kind of maniacal. But I try to keep it quiet and let it brew inside and come out like alchemy. Simply put, it's alchemy, lingual alchemy, because it bodes well for yourself, not only in this life, but as you go beyond this life. And, I think that's something to it, not in a religious way, but in an existential way, that the writing comes through you. And that it is non-temperamental according to the signs of the zodiac. But how you live, or as Sri Aurobindo puts it, over and beyond the zodiac. That's why I live it, over and beyond the zodiac. Well, some people don't even recognize my own sign. I'm supposed to be a Leo, but I'm really a being that's traveling through the cosmos. That's how I look at it, not as a mystic, but as a traveler. Mm-hmm. So the poet is this cosmic traveler.
Yeah.
That's all I can say right now. I can't burnish it up with anything else, but that's it. I'm glad you saw the book.
No, that was great. Yeah, no, that kind of that wraps back to that's the same feeling, I guess. Mm-hmm. That was just like, oh yeah, it's kind of crazy to see somebody not on the same trip. That's not what I'm even. It's not like, again, a mirror, like somebody. It's more. Askance than that, but it's also like, somebody moving in a similar direction.
Looking at the side of your eye.
Yeah. Which was very, I don't know, it's very exciting. It was very, I don't know, gave like a precedent. I think that was what I was wondering about, like if, because then a thing for me, a difference between when I was writing the first poems in Object 7 versus now is sort of like where I am, and who's around, because when I wrote the first 5 poems in these, I was living in my parents' house in Chesterfield, Virginia, which I don't know if you know where that is.
I don't.
Exactly. Yeah, that's usually the reaction. At least now, I was living abroad for a while, and people would be like, "Where are you from? You're from the States? Or are you from New York?" And I'm like, "No, I'm from Virginia." And they're like, they would start singing, "What's the West Virginia?" Whatever that song is, I don't even know. But anyway. But yeah, exactly. So I was in nowhere, by myself, very on this cosmic traveler tip. Literally walking around looking at the stars at night, because that was like the most exciting thing I had to do. Yeah. But now. Okay, let me gather these thoughts. I keep shooting off and then forget where I'm going. But now it's like I don't know, hang out with a bunch of poets. Some of them are here. And Terrence, has that changed, or what part does that play, I guess, for you? Is that like a big part of your, I guess, life and or writing with other poets? Nothing is set in stone. I was an anomaly. I just came out of these I went from vacuum to vacuum. By the way, I found later on in life, I found out that Octavio Paz says I'm a very slow reader. Well, I was a very slow learner, and in the early parts of my life, very early, I was relegated to the bottom group of reading, and through one of my early instructors. In fact, I drove by my old grammar school about a week ago, and it's the same building, but I was lucky to meet, he may not be with us now, a Mr. Beacon, who got me in the 3rd grade, and I got to the point by the time I was in the 4th grade, I'm here. So, a slow start means a fast finish. I don't know if that cliche means anything, but it's a lot of hard work in between. Max Roach said that I didn't just jump out like this, but you just work on yourself, you doubt yourself. In other words, you go through experience with yourself, who you are, weakness, strength. Sometimes people that are strongest in the beginning, they flag at the end.
But I talked to Nate Mackey not too far back, but we talk about how you learn over time. You don't just learn right away. They say you're really smart because you got something quick. Because in the United States, to talk, and in Occident in general, if you go real fast at something, it makes you seem smarter. But think about the great works like Sam Beckett. Great example of maturating over time, going through a lot of changes, So that gave me a lot of succor, and Thomas Bernhardt, people like that. Great examples, So anyway, I don't want to keep dominating the situation. What do you?
Oh no. Sorry,
Okay. Yeah.
What was I gonna say? What was I gonna say? I think I was gonna react to. It's cool to also hear you say that you take heart from Beckett's course, where this is something I've talked about a lot recently. It's just yeah, it's cool. I got time. Beckett was still writing his great work late into his life and getting better and sharper and more into what he's doing. And one of the few examples, I guess, of somebody getting weirder, both weirder and not in the Picasso sense of well, I'm fucking Picasso. It's where no, I'm still sharpening my sword the whole time, which is
that's true.
which is kind of cool. I don't know if I have. No, I do have one more question. Oh, I had a vague thought, but I don't know how to formulate it as a question. Within all the books, I think it might have come out of My Life in the Bush of Ghosts, and then something in Compression and Purity. I was thinking about spirituality and the spirit and how it shows up in your poems, wondering if there was a specific religious background or if this interest was inculcated via other means.
I combination of all those things, because my mom and my dad were highly spiritual in their delimited context of post-apartheid in this country. And how else can you say it? You were raised in a Protestant religion, but in a certain way, it was kind of like the Surrealists were raised Catholic, but I was raised Protestant. I understood Lamantia's situation via Catholicism and Artaud's just instinctively. So this is not a new situation, but the struggles of a person that's been very influential for me is the letters of Joan Miro. How he came through a situation of seeming weakness into this incredible power, and you just don't happen upon it right away. The textbooks tell you just happen upon this power. You have to evolve into the power, because the commercial structure gets you at a certain point that they can use you at your peak power and throw you away. It's like a seasonal flower that's beautiful and it's thrown away in the winter. So I'm an aseasonal person.
We've got to wrap it up for time. Sorry, but one more round of applause for Will and